Hi there. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay. So that sounds like a page turner, right? Crypto data analytics. My name is Katie Chase. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Coinmetrics. We are very local, so we are headquartered in Boston and have been here since 2017 when we were founded. We set forth on a mission to contextualize or explain the economic significance of these public blockchain networks. And, honestly, when we were founded in 2017, it was not that insurmountable of a challenge. There were fewer than 21 assets in existence. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about how things have changed, but also hopefully give you some interesting facts along the way and provide an organizing framework for how you can think about the digital asset space. So roll back a bit to 2009, and there was one crypto asset, Bitcoin. It wasn't until 2013 when we saw the launch of 2 additional crypto assets. So still very easy to get your arms around this space. We saw Doge and Ripple at that point. And then in 2014, we had 3 more assets. It wasn't until 2015 that Ethereum launched. So, a small data company, a few data products, and a fairly easy job for the users of the space, the investors in the space, to understand what they were looking at. Roll forward to today, there's over 9,000 cryptocurrencies in existence. This is a challenge. There are over 200 crypto asset trading venues. There's hundreds of thousands of trading markets. There are over 10 product lines just at Coinmetrics to represent these crypto assets. We have over 1,000 crypto asset metrics to describe them. And we have 2.5 petabytes of data. So what do you do about this? We launched a crypto asset taxonomy called Autonomy with Goldman Sachs and MSCI in 2022 to help organize all this, to bring some order to the chaos. And this taxonomy is specifically geared for the digital asset space. If we kind of think about large volumes of data, we've always needed organizing frameworks. In the 30s, we saw the SIC. That is, a framework that was developed to describe industries by the U.S. government, and it served a great purpose and sort of helped folks standardize things for many, many decades. It wasn't until the 90s when we saw the emergence of the service economy that it really kind of fell out of favor. It became outdated. We saw the NAICS really take over in the government space. It's primarily what's used today. It was created by the US government, the Canadian government, and the Mexican government to describe the industries that they use for kind of government purposes, surveys, economic statistics. And it largely replaced the SIC for that purpose, and it did a much better job at handling the service economy. Similarly, right around the same time, we saw the introduction of GICs. So GICs is probably what everyone in this room has heard of. It is the most commonly used financial industry crypto sector taxonomy, and it was produced by S&P and MSCI, and it started to classify new industries in the service economy, but also in IT, and pretty much is sort of the gold standard for analysis today. And then you saw like a lot of classification systems in the intervening periods. So, we saw Isaac, which is used by like the IMF and the World Bank, and was created by the United Nations. Bloomberg has their own way of classifying things on their terminal. I think Refinitiv does. But what we found is that none of these frameworks did a very good job handling this new asset class, this new digital asset space. So that's why we created Autonomy. So what is Autonomy? It is a framework that looks really familiar. It's very similar to the way that these other sector taxonomies work. It's 3 levels. Each asset has a 6-digit code. Each level has 2 digits of that 6-digit code. And the universe of which we're classifying is determined by accessibility. So we've classified over 200 assets into these autonomy subsectors. And that's on a basis of, you know, what assets can people actually get access to, and that just means that they're available on more than 25% of our trusted exchanges. So you have to be able to like go buy and sell this asset for us to put it in the universe of which we're going to call autonomy. The class level is just like a high-level industry description. I'll get into what some of them are. And a sector is just like a double click into that industry description. So it describes a little bit more context, and then the subsector is a double click into the sector. So we have 41 subsectors, and here they are. So our 4 classes are digital currencies. So this includes things like value transfer coins like Bitcoin, but also specialized coins like meme coins or privacy coins and remittance tokens. Blockchain infrastructure is another class. This includes the smart contract space, so assets like Ethereum, but also includes the blockchain utilities coins, as well as the Oracle coins. The digital asset application space, this is the DeFi space that you guys probably all love, and it also has the metaverse sectors. And then we have our on-chain derivatives. Probably the most well-known sector there would be your stablecoin sector. But that's also all the tokenized assets, all the claim assets. So we think that actually will explode in the next several years as more things are tokenized and digitized on-chain. So you can see how this framework will be a bit future-proofed and how it can expand as this space expands. You can also see that all of these sectors, subsectors, are based on the purpose or use. So we have intentionally not commingled things like technical features, right? How decentralized is it, or what is the consensus mechanism. So there are other frameworks that kind of mix those two. We've kept this one pure. We do have a place for those descriptors, and we can kind of combine them, but we wanted to make sure that the classification framework itself could continue to be double-clicked on. So we didn't want to then have the level 4 be how decentralized it is, because that sort of limits you in terms of being able to double-click to a level 4 in the future if we want to, say, expand on tokenized assets. So what has happened over time is you've seen a real shift in sort of the market dominance of these classes. Even as recently as 2020, you still had the digital currency asset class, which has Bitcoin in it, really kind of be the dominant class because of Bitcoin's dominance. We're now really seeing the blockchain infrastructure class as a very kind of large component of the overall market cap of the space. That class includes Ethereum, but also tokens like Solana, BNB, Tron, so a lot of those top 10 market cap coins. And you can see some of the events that have occurred between now and then, but you have seen a big shift. I think it's about 30% of the market cap now is in that digital infrastructure class. And you see, those other 2 classes, the digital asset applications and the on-chain derivatives, those are just teeny tiny, less than 10% of the total market cap. So as much as we talk about those, they're still very small. So we'll dive a little bit into that digital asset application class just because it has a lot of the cool stuff in there. These are all of the tokens that are native to the operations of an on-chain application. Within there, we've got the decentralized finance sector. The decentralized finance sector is tokens that are native to an on-chain application that basically is taking the place of traditional financial services. Within there, you've got your DEXs, or digital exchanges, with the digital exchange being a very specific type of token that is taking the place of traditional financial services, in that it is a token for the spot markets, enabling peer-to-peer transfer of assets to these liquidity pools. So the DEXs are things like Uniswap, SushiSwap, and a lot of those platforms that a lot of kind of crypto asset enthusiasms are interacting with fairly frequently. So while this is a pretty tiny percentage of the overall market cap of the space, it's less than 5% actually, all digital asset applications. It represents more than half of the assets in our autonomy framework. So there's a lot of individual assets that don't have sort of a very substantial market cap. Some of the other subsectors in here include, prediction markets, crowdfunding, things like derivatives, decentralized derivatives platforms, insurance. So it's a pretty big space, which is why there's so many names. So by far, the DEX subsector is the largest component of DeFi. It's 46% of the market cap of the sector. And you can see it's maintained that. It has consistently been the largest portion of that sector. And it represents a large portion of the names, not quite 46%. I think it's like 38% of the names, but it is very dominant. One of the other interesting things that we can do is we can match up other data. So not just market cap or price with these sectors, but we can think about the on-chain data. And here I'm showing the total DeFi index. So it's the CMBI DeFi index. So it includes all the names in the DeFi index. And you can see kind of the performance there in green with an overlay of on-chain activity. And we're using active addresses here to represent on-chain activity. So how many addresses are active in a particular interval. What's interesting about this is you see the peak in the on-chain activity before you see the price peak. So you can kind of see that there was a lot more on-chain activity leading to a price peak. And you can also see there was a decrease in that activity that preceded the decrease in the price. So by merging these data sets together, you can kind of see some of the fundamentals that should eventually be driving price. I won't say this works in all cases. Cryptocurrencies are kind of well known for kind of not looking at the fundamentals. So a lot of the price action has actually nothing to do with the fundamentals. But in some cases it does show you something, and in the future, it should show us a lot. This should be something that folks are making decisions on around whether or not this is a good investment. Is there any kind of useful utility to this token that I'm investing in? So what are some of the other kind of uses of this data and these sectors? Well, creating investment products. So we foresee investors wanting to get exposure to a particular sector, and they can invest in these indexes. We also foresee folks wanting to exclude maybe subsectors. So they might want to invest in a space, but they might want to exclude meme coins. So they could sort of easily strip that out. Another kind of usefulness is around portfolio performance. We can easily measure the different kind of components of our portfolio. We can get a quick view of our sector's relative performance versus maybe the total portfolio. We can educate our users. One of the big uses of this right now is around the disclosure framework. So there will be regulatory requirements to disclose more information about these assets if you're running an exchange or a custody business. This is happening in Europe, and it's happening in the US. And in order to provide reasonable disclosures, you probably need some data. One of the things that the regulators want to see is that you're telling your user what the purpose is of the asset, so they can kind of validate that. So purely educational. You can create factor models, like factor mimicking models, so you can hedge the risk and return that these assets share in common. So essentially, you can leave only the idiosyncratic risks by kind of stripping out the kind of commonality across the things in the sector. And then you can analyze the sectors using metrics that matter for that sector. So I think folks think of this as kind of like a monolithic thing right now, and I need to look at I don't know, active addresses, and that's an important metric for every asset. But the reality is different sectors have kind of different things that matter. So if I'm looking at the stablecoin sector, it's probably really good to pay attention to whether or not my asset is depegging. You know, it's probably interesting to see kind of the velocity of the activity. Is it really used in kind of any kind of a payment way? But that is maybe not relevant for an asset that's in the smart contract space. In the smart contract space, you might want to see people are building on this layer one, right? Are people building applications? How many applications? So sort of developing kind of your frameworks for how you analyze these assets by sector is probably very helpful. So this is just an example of how you might think about this from an investment product creation perspective. So here you have all of the Coinmetrics sector and subsector indexes. We roll those up into a total market index, which includes everything into autonomy. That is a market cap weighted index. And then each of these individual indexes are equal weighted, and this enables folks to create investment products. Probably not going to see a lot of investment product creation in the US in the short term because there isn't regulatory clarity on all of these assets. But you are seeing a little bit of this activity in Europe. Advisors like to diversify. So when there's regulatory clarity, we think that you will see investment products in this way. I think hedge funds also like to hedge. So there'll be another kind of user of that. Here we're showing the year-to-date performance of all of these sector indexes. What stands out here is that they're all doing pretty crappy year-to-date, right? Bitcoin is at the top there, so that's the dark line at the top. And it's outperforming all of the sectors. The only one that's even in kind of kind of close to positive territory is the sector that contains the meme coins. So meme coins have done okay. And here's a look over the last 7 days. So I snapped this on Thursday last week. I think I had to get a copy of this presentation over on Friday. But same story, right? Kind of red territory here. The only green territory last week was the stablecoin sector, barely green. You would be very surprised if that wasn't basically zero. But everything else was in the negative. So what are we doing? We are creating lots of information on this stuff. So sorry. We have the movers and shakers, which highlight all of the new assets that are kind of about to be covered by autonomy. So they've reached a certain accessibility threshold. We publish that every month, so you can read about how these assets are used. We are starting our single asset coverage later this month. It's all free. All of our research is free. That will begin with a coverage initiation piece for Bitcoin, and it's going to look like a sell-side research report. In October, we'll begin our sector research. So we're starting with the stablecoin sector. This is kind of near and dear to Coinmetrics and our founders. So we'll be creating a kind of, think of it as like an industry report for each of these sector spaces. We're adding to our asset profiles for some of this disclosure purpose, so people can better understand the descriptors of these assets. And we've got a community data product. So we have a great new way for kind of everyone here to experience the community data. It's a free data product. We have a new user interface, so new front end, kind of easy to create charts and kind of look around in there. And all of that is organized by class. So you can see all the assets and all the different classes that they're in. We have thousands of assets covered. I think in the front-end tool, we are offering about 220. So a good way for folks to kind of explore and learn about these assets and kind of see it in a very visual way. So I don't want to kind of leave everyone on that sad note. The performance is kind of crappy year to date. The performance is terrible in the last 7 days, because I think the future is super bright. So August was one of our best months ever in the history of Coinmetrics from kind of a new client perspective. And what's great about that is data is really a leading indicator for what's to come. So we're seeing a ton of interest in the market. Obviously, before people launch products, before they invest in products, before they build products, they need to understand the ecosystem that they're operating in, and and that's when we see the data buyers coming on. So that's that's got us very, very optimistic. We're also really optimistic that we're going to see some form of regulatory clarity, and I think that's that optimism is also what our users are seeing, which is why we're bringing on all these new clients. So I think everybody's kind of hopeful that as we come into 2025, we're going to see a whole lot of new applications. We really do believe that many parts of our financial economy are better on chain, and I think you will see pretty much everything that we do kind of fitting into that taxonomy somewhere in 5 to 10 years. So I'm not sure what this clock means. I know I ran out of time. So I am very happy to take any questions. It reset, so I don't know if that means that I still have time. Okay.
Hello. So how close are we to RWAs for stocks like Ondos, BlackRock's Ondos? How soon in the future can we be looking to use this?
So like stocks, equities, I personally think that we will see that kind of in the fairly distant future.
Okay.
I would expect to see other financial instruments like well before that. So you're already seeing money market funds tokenized on chain. We're already seeing some like bond issuance on chain. I think there's another sort of panel coming on to talk about something along those lines. Why I think equities are hard is because there is like an off-chain representation of them, and so what you don't want to have is like these two kind of competing markets for the same essentially instrument. So I think the things that you can kind of natively issue on-chain, like de novo issue it on-chain, like a bond issuance, are probably a little bit easier in like the short run. So, but that's just one person's perspective.
And will synthetics still be used if, in fact, we can do RWAs?
Pardon me?
Will synthetics still have a place in the market, synthetics?
Yeah, I think you'll just see different representations of them. Yeah, I mean you're basically seeing everything that we do with traditional finance kind of mimicked in decentralized finance.
Right.
Obviously, in some cases we're making all the same mistakes we made in traditional finance and decentralized finance. That's but we'll learn from that, and yeah, I do think we'll see very similar kind of market structures, hopefully improved market structures, more transparency. Everything should be more transparent.
Gotcha.
Hi, just real quickly, could you just go back to your comment when you made that you made earlier about kind of how the product doesn't lend itself to fundamental research, and does that mean that there's an aversion towards more traditional fundamental research shops providing coverage to some of these assets?
I think that's a short-term phenomenon. So I think over time, the fundamentals will drive the asset price. So up until now, there's been a lot of kind of speculative activity. There's not a lot of liquidity in all these markets. Sort of, a small buy or a small sell can really kind of change the price. So, I think you could see a chain like completely tick offline, right? Like it's not even producing new blocks. It's not even working at all, but the price isn't impacted by that. Well, that's very strange, right? That's not how things should work. Over time, all of the kind of market arbitrage and the sort of hopefully speculative nature of this space will sort of, I think, kind of fall off a bit, and you will see a lot more kind of fundamental research driving price. And people are still doing it. There's some great reports out there. So if you read kind of Galaxy's research or Fidelity's research, Goldman Sachs, these guys do really good kind of fundamental research on this space.
So I'm thinking that this data will be very useful for traders who are trying to make maybe an algorithm to do the trading for them. So do you guys have any API which can be used to do that? you do?
Yeah, we're primarily an API-first product. We have APIs for every single data point that Coinmetrics produces. We even have a community API, so we have a lot of our data, our free data, available through API. A little bit more limited history on the public-facing free API. The front-end tools are like the charting tools. That's just meant to be a convenience for folks that aren't comfortable with an API. Maybe a lot of our users are not engineers and don't really know what to do with an API. But yes, it is our primary product.
I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more about the top of the funnel as far as deciding which assets get covered. I mean, you could launch multiple meme coins a day at this point. So how do you all decide what gets included in the database?
Yeah, so we cover, I think, 45 of the top cryptocurrency trading venues, and so we get all of the trading data from those venues. Thousands of assets are traded on that collection of exchanges, and we go a step further and rate and rank all of the exchanges that we cover. So there's a research paper on our website if you want more information about how we're rating and ranking exchanges. But there is a certain set of them that we consider trusted exchanges, meaning we think that real trading activity is driving the prices that you're seeing on those exchanges. They're not, they're not pumping their volumes. They're not doing it's not like driven by like casino-y kind of gamey type of activity. There's a whole sort of set of statistical analysis that goes into whether or not we think it's fake trading or not. And if we suspect there's fake trading, then that exchange is not qualifying as a trusted exchange. In order for us to progress an asset into autonomy, we have to see that it's widely available in the trusted exchanges. So it has to be available on 25% of our trusted exchanges. I think I'm going to say like 20 trusted exchanges. So, it has to be available on maybe 5 exchanges right now, something like that. Any other questions? Oh, over there. Sorry, the lights are like super bright. Oh.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm wondering if you've ever heard of the Regen Network?
The Regen Network.
No, they kind of work on like almost climate-related
Oh, cool.
tokenized assets that are based off of like environmental remediation.
Okay.
So for me, as somebody that's been a speculator in the implementation of the technology, I get excited when we look at like managing a farm properly and using sensors to kind of see what the environmental benefit of doing so looks like, and then putting that type of asset.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering where that might fall in your list of classifications of an asset.
So I think it would fall in that kind of that on-chain kind of derivatives bucket, and probably I guess it depends. If it's a governance token, then it would be in sort of one of the blockchain infrastructure buckets. But assuming that it's some representation of something that exists in real life, then it would be that on-chain derivatives. You can just see with those 41 subsectors, just the diversity of things that people are doing on these blockchains, and some of them are like really super cool, like that.